Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, everyone's seen the news and the press release that we've acquired right-handed starter Jack Flaherty from the St. Louis Cardinals. A very accomplished very talented starting pitcher that bolsters our rotation and our pitching staff as a whole down the stretch. I think as we went into this deadline period, we were almost exclusively fixated on pitching. It came in the form of both starting pitching and relief pitching, our pursuits, and they happened up and down the entire spectrum of the trade market. And we're very pleased that this is where we landed, and a player that we were targeting, a deal that we liked that made sense for both teams. I think that the big takeaway for me is that Jack's got a lot of good experience in a great organization. He's a very athletic pitcher with four really quality pitches, up to 97, works in the mid 90s. All of his pitches great above average from a scouting perspective. And we need help with the innings load down the stretch. We've got a lot of young starters that haven't done this before. We've got members of our relief corps that are injured or tired. And so we were just looking for pitching help in all shapes and sizes. It was a very challenging market. I think I talked about it before. People have commented that this was a seller's market, but it seemed like the landscape and the standings and the rules in place with the extra wild card combined to create a very small number of selling teams. I'm happy that we were able to make what I view to be a quality trade and a good acquisition, and somebody that checks off a need for us here going down the stretch. And he's got to join the team and get on board and all that. So we don't have any specific plans about when he might pitch, but hopefully very soon.
Mike, we will jump into questions. First is Rock.
Mike, you were linked to a lot of different pitchers today and engaged in a lot of different talks. Was Flaherty like a primary target for you all along? Were you ever close to maybe something else and then kind of circled back?
Yeah, we got very close to some things. We took some very big swings and some things came close. The trade deadline is really hard because when you start working on something, you block off opportunities elsewhere. You can get locked up and you don't really know if it's going to go to fruition. And, it's just a hard thing to navigate. It's very, very challenging. It can be tense. This was, as tense a one as I've seen. And it was as challenging one I've seen, but he was one of the pitchers that from the very get-go of our planning, we circled as a fit. We weren't sure whether St. Louis was going to sell. They kind of made the decision to do that about a week ago. They had a few guys that we were talking to them about, but glad this worked out. I think right now, we've had some spots in the bullpen in flux. But we've got some guys getting healthy. We've got some players coming up through the system, and bringing in an extra starter. You can always spill over into the bullpen to help with those innings. And I think now we have several legitimate, accomplished major league starting pitchers, all of whom are having good years right now. And if any one of those five aren't in the rotation in a given time or a given week, we could see fit to deploy them in the bullpen. So I just hope and believe that this will help us with the innings load down the stretch with a guy that's been very good.
Next is Rich Dubroff.
Hey, Mike, how close were you to making a deal for a reliever?
Pretty close. And, we were, even as we got the Flaherty trade done in like the last couple of minutes, we were still had appetite to bring in relief depth or relief options. It just didn't happen. This is a tough thing because, you go into the trade deadline, you don't have control over it. It's not like the draft where you just pick who you want. The other side has to agree and they've got other stuff. And sometimes you put the ball in their court and the ball doesn't come back to you and you wait. So it happens. Because of how tough it is, I think we're particularly pleased that we found a trade that we really like, that I think is a very good fit for this team. We think this team has what it takes to go deep, and this bolsters us. I think it gives us a lot of security and a boost to the rotation down the stretch.
Next up is Jake Rill.
Hey, Mike, you haven't dealt from this farm system much. Just how tough was it to trade away 3 good prospects in this trade?
Well, yeah, it's always tough. I think the Cardinals got a great deal here. I mean, Drew Rom's a major league ready lefty in AAA. Cesar Prieto is a guy that Kobe Perez and I and Brandon Hyde personally scouted and recruited to the organization. And he's doing great. And, we've got a lot of infielders. We can't keep them all. Everybody talks about all that all the time. And then Zach Showalter's off to a great start as a pick that we gave a nice bonus to. But you look at the trades this year, these were huge returns, even for the rentals. I think that this landed in an appropriate spot for both teams. I'm sure these players will go on to have very fruitful careers, but we're here. 2023 is a priority. I've spoken before about how my job is balancing that priority against the future and not doing an exchange that we will overly regret or be unwise. And I think this landed in the right spot in that regard. And St. Louis is a place I have contacts and used to work, and they know what they're doing too. So they asked for the right names, and this is where it landed.
Next is Nathan Ruiz.
Like you used the word bolsters a couple times. In what ways do you feel like Jack is an upgrade to this rotation? Adding I don't know if top of the rotation is necessarily the right framing, but how do you kind of view him in that regard?
I think his experience and the accomplishments he's made over there, he probably makes him our second most experienced starter. We've got some young guys that are doing really, really well. So I don't really care what the order of our rotation is. If we're fortunate enough to get in the playoffs and we see who our opponent is and how the matchup is, we'll set the rotation order at that point. But right now, we've got more than 5 guys with Flaherty in the fold, Cole Irvin, Tyler Wells, that have proven they can do it at this level. And that's, I think, what it takes. We've got a above average bullpen. We have a fill to the brim position player roster. This is a good team, and I don't think there's a ton of hierarchy in this rotation. And I think that he goes in right with the best in our group.
Next is Cordell.
Mike, like Rock said, we heard that you guys were attached to a lot of different names on the open market. We know you've got a plethora of a lot of prospects in your system. You said you guys were taking big swings. When you think back to some of those conversations, were you noticing that people were maybe asking for certain prospects that you didn't feel like you wanted to give up at that time?
Oh yeah, look, we've got the top of our prospect list is as good as it's out there. We've got 8 or 9 or 10 top 100 guys right now, depending on how you look at it or put the different lists together. It took a long time to get people off of that part of the list. I think people look at our system and we've got some depth and some guys playing the same positions and all that. And I think, people wanted to tap into that. We were willing to in certain scenarios. And like I said, had some really big stuff get down the pike. But again, I only can control our side of it, and people, go in directions that they're going to go. And that's what this is all about. So I think we were prepared to deploy every corner of our farm system within reason to make acquisitions. And, we just make a calculated value exchange of what we're losing, and then the players that we're getting back, and then with the appropriate sort of emphasis on the near term for 2023 or 2024, or depending on the amount of control those guys had. So, we were organized. We were ready to tap into it. Maybe we might have a couple of players, and I won't name them, that, we wouldn't trade for anyone in baseball. But other than that, you got to be prepared to look up and down. And there were a lot of teams really fixated on a lot of players that we had that we just didn't feel were appropriate to go in those deals. And that's part of why this went to the last minute for us.
Noah Trister.
Yeah, hi, Mike. It sounds like, for example, Dylan Cease didn't end up getting traded at all. And I'm just wondering, did you find it, I guess, harder? Is it getting harder to make deals for guys like that with pitchers with more years of team control? And was there a point where you sort of realized that you were probably going to end up, opting for someone who can become a free agent after this year?
No, I think it depends, because it depends what the team, where they are in their cycle. And a lot of these teams that were selling this year kind of had disappointing seasons, even though they had talented rosters. So they had talented players to put out on the market, but they want to be good next year. So, they weren't really in a motivated posture to trade some of their players that they have for the future. And, that's part of it too. So, the rental players tends to be a little bit lower bar for entry for motivation for a team if they're out of it. There's usually teams want to get future value back for a player that they're going to lose in 2 months, and it makes the conversations a little more focused quicker.
Dan Connolly.
Mike, this is your first year as a buyer with the Orioles, but in looking at the overall pitching market, was it what you expected? Was there more of a flurry? Was it more difficult to obtain somebody? What were your perceptions going into the pitching market, and what did they end up becoming at the end?
I thought, like I said, I thought this was a seller's market. I thought the returns were very impressive for the sellers in every trade that I saw. I haven't sat down and looked at what happened in the last 20 minutes. So it was an expensive market because of the supply and demand. And it's tough, when you're on the buy side, you tend to kind of lose every trade, and because you're giving away years and years and years of future for a very short impact. But that's part of trying to win and focus on the team that's in a good position. So I thought it was very challenging. I thought that overall the teams that were selling did really well around the league, but you saw the buyers were active. So it was very competitive, and it's been very tiring few days. Our room, Mike Snyder, the 4 pro scouts on the staff, members of our analytics staff, Brendan Forney, Sig, Ryan Harden, Mike Weiss, Kobe Perez, Eve Rosenbaum, and then a lot of other people that contributed, our medical team, everything. We've been up day and night for a few days now.
Next is Andy Koska.
Hey, Mike, kind of bouncing off Noah's question, was there more of a focus for you in this trade deadline looking initially at pitchers that were under team control because you are balancing this? It's not just 2023 aspect, or were you pretty open immediately to a rental?
No, I thought that the rental market looked a little more numerous. Other than a couple of these guys that you mentioned, there's 1 or 2 that were traded, but it was not a ton of pitchers with tons of team control. So I kind of thought things might gravitate that way. And we were also looking for bullpen help in addition to a starter. But we got Fujinami a week or so ago, more than that. I thought that was a big move ahead of the deadline and filled one of the bullpen spots were in flux. Hopefully he continues to look like a guy that's going to help us. And I believe, and we believe thus far, that he's doing that. But we were exploring more and just weren't able to get it across the finish line for whatever reason. These are really hard to line up on.
Back to Nathan Ruiz.
Mike, to the point of your pursuit of relievers, what is your kind of concern level when it comes to usage of Felix Bautista, Yennier Cano, two guys who are maybe in situations they haven't necessarily been in before?
Yeah, I mean, our whole team is in situations that they haven't been in before, other than Gibson and Flaherty and James McCann and some of these guys. This is these guys are playing with their hair on fire. This is new for them. There's only so much I can do about it. This is Major League Baseball, and they're in it, and a lot of these guys are star players, and they want to play. So we want to win the games. We're doing our best to keep everybody healthy. I think Brandon does an excellent job. You notice the guys never pitch 3 days in a row. We give them extra days when they have long pitch counts. We're trying to take care of our pitching. It's obviously challenging in any situation, but in ours in particular, with the types of dogfights that we're in every night with the American League East, and then the types of games that we're in where it's like always close. It's tough. So that's why bringing a starting pitcher in, that's got 100 innings under his belt this year, that's had a couple of seasons where he's approached 200, we hope will help.
Next is Jacob Meyer.
Hey, Mike, to follow up on that, I know you mentioned Jack obviously has experience throwing 190 innings and being in the postseason, but it has been a couple years since he has reached this number, triple digits in innings. Was there any concern during the process of his workload down the stretch, considering you guys do have so many starters approaching career highs in innings?
Yeah, I haven't plugged in with him about that. I have talked to him today. We FaceTimed. He's very excited. I think anytime you're out of the race and then you're going to a team that's in first place and you're a competitor, it's a jolt. I'm familiar with him a little bit. I scouted him as a high school player at Harvard Westlake. He was a two-way player. He's very athletic, very outgoing personality. I think he's got a great delivery, like his pitch mix. So we'll see where this goes. I think the strength in numbers component of it was an important part of this that he helps with. I just expect that he's going to be a big lift for us down the stretch.
Kyle Goon.
Hey, Mike, I know sometimes the timing of these things can be really incidental, but you and John Angelos had a lot of camera time in your suite on Sunday Night Baseball. I was just wondering what role John was playing around this time, if you guys were having a lot of conversations about guys you wanted to bring in or might be bring in, or deals that might get done, and just his presence as you were kind of figuring out.
I thought John's input and support during the trade deadline was excellent. He enabled us to line the board up and sort of make the moves that we wanted to make. The budget possibilities were ample. As I said, we were up and down the spectrum. We had the wherewithal to do what we needed and wanted to do on the baseball level. And, that's always huge. And, whether we see fit to use it or not, based on the baseball component. Oh, lost my lights. Anyway, it is, I don't have full control over what we do or don't do at a trade deadline because of, the need for the other parties to get on board. But we were totally able to explore what we wanted to and needed to, and everything up and down the spectrum from a financial perspective, and take advantage of good opportunities and good investments for the team. And this is where we landed.
Next is Gabe.
Hey, Mike. Do you guys feel like when you guys get your hands on Jack that, and getting him into your program, that you might be able to find a little more in there and tap into some of the things that made him really, really good just a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that sticks out to me is the stuff. Like I said, it's 4 above average pitches, and perhaps his execution has come and gone. We've had success thus far this year with some game planning stuff that our pitchers have done pretty well with. It's helped their stuff play up. We've got 2 excellent catchers. We got a great defense. We'll see. I don't know yet. I just like the talent. I like the experience. I like what comes out of his hands. And, players are going to have some seasons that are better than others, and maybe we can get them hot here in the next couple months.
Andy Koska.
And Mike, you mentioned the other day that, this is a team that you'd like to see push far into October. Do you think this move solidified that, or did you already have, the potential to push deep into October before you even got Jack?
Look, I think the roster and the chemistry on this team is revealing itself to kind of have the goods to make an October run. Obviously, there's some luck involved in that and health. But look, we're in probably the toughest division in baseball history that I can tell. We got 2 months to go. These other teams are right behind us. They're all over 500. They all bought today, I think. And, we got to get through the next couple of months and get into the playoffs. So there's no harder road to the playoffs than what we're going through right now. So we'll worry about that when it's time to worry about that. For us to we're obviously out of our rebuild. We're very competitive. But a step that we have yet to take is to make the playoffs. Our goal is to win the division. We're in first place. But we want to do that first and foremost before thinking about next steps.
Final question is from Jacob.
Hey, Mike, given that you said it was a seller's market, are you just overall pleased with the fact that you got a potential high leverage reliever in Fuji and a starter with experience in Flaherty, while also not having to give up one of those players that you were talking about, one of those top 100 guys that the teams continually were asking about?
We gave up 4 pretty good players, 4 big leaguers, and if they stay healthy, and that's never easy, but the system's set up where you can't keep everyone that you draft and sign and develop and sign internationally, and we decided to utilize these guys in trades for major league help, and I am pleased that we got a reliever that's looking good and a starter that's going to help. We were prepared to, and we're processing some trade discussions that included some of our, top 100 type of guys. But, I think it is a nice outcome here that, we're still sitting on a very special and, perhaps historic group of Orioles talent right now. These guys are all still with us.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.